Hello there, and welcome to Alvarez's Diecast Customs. Now today we're going to be working on this Hot Wheels Night Shifter. It's a pretty cool looking car. I like the whole sort of engine build on it there with the tanks at the rear and the turbo at the front. Also like the stance of it as well, but I think we can go one further with it. Anyway, let's take a closer look at him. Yeah, pretty cool. Not too keen on the design of it with the decals on there with the Hot Wheels. I've also taken the time to drill the base out on this. I start off with a 2mm drill bit, then work up to a 5mm to remove the main piece of the head off, and I just like to use these self-tapping 5mm screws to screw the base back on. There's that base. Those wheels, won't be keeping them, so we'll be looking at replacing them. There's our interior piece with some garish gold chrome on there. Overall though, it's pretty detailed. I do like the details on the seats there with the belts and everything. There's our window piece. Transparent blue plastic. It's okay. It's better than the greens and oranges they often do with some of their builds. You can see the posts there have been drilled out. A bit rough around the edges, so this is definitely going to need some filing later on. Overall, very nice car. I really like the details on it. I'll just get that stripped off with some standard paint stripper. I'll let it sit in there for about an hour, then scrape it off with an old toothbrush under a tap. This is what you're left with. I also quickly went over this with a wire wheel using the electric rotary tool. I like to use these little fine diamond files just to clean up the body on this. Just be going around the whole body, just cleaning up any edges that look a bit rough and some of the moulding lines that you tend to get with these. As you can see here, there's quite a substantial moulding line around the front fender there. Just use the file just to remove that. To be honest, is probably the main thing I'd recommend to anyone starting this hobby, is really pay attention to the casting you're given and remove some of the errors that they cause on it. Generally don't see them with the amount of thick paint Hot Wheels put onto their cars, but once you start doing your own customs on it, you use a lot thinner paints, and these little errors can really just show up as massive warts on your car. So yeah, definitely spend some time cleaning them up. Gives a much better finish at the end of it. We'll just go about removing the wheels on this base as well. I do like that detailed interior. I can't wait to get on with that one. So just be using some side cutters, or just remove the little tabs that hold the wheel axles on. Come out very easily just by removing one each. Now we're just going to go sort out these wheels. So we've gone to see our goddess Super Pochaco and see what she's got for us. Give her these old ones that we will no longer be needing. Oh, what's that? Nice. Let's take a closer look at these. That's a couple of Hot Wheels Real Riders. These are very cool. These are probably one of my favourite Real Riders that they put on their models. Very nice. So I've gone and painted it. I used rattle can to paint these. I initially start off with a grey primer from Halfords, and then I did the metallic red over the body, and then I did a matte black on the chassis, and just primed the interior. Again, this is all out of spray cans. This isn't airbrushing or anything. I can't afford such things as that, and I don't even have the space for it, to be honest. Yeah, here's these wheels. We're just test fitting them. Far too small on the axles to even fit them in the base. So we're going to have to knock up our own axle tubing to get these in there. I like to use this brass tubing. It's a straight fit. I gently filed away the excess tabs there with one of my diamond files. The brass tubing sits directly into the channel that they sat. So we'll just use some side cutters. We'll just clip the Real Rider's axles. So we're going to need to get the wheels off of them. I like to hold my hand over them while I do it, because if you clip them off without holding onto them, they just go flying around your room. Probably lose the bits. I'm also going to be using the axles from the original wheels, because the ones that came with the Real Riders are quite short, so it makes it a bit more challenging to try and glue them in. So I'll be using the longer axles just to give me a bit more room and movement on them. And the axles from the old wheels directly fit into the Real Riders. So as you see, the original Hot Wheels axles slide directly into this brass tubing, nice and good fit, and allow them to freely roll as well. But what it also allows is to hold the wheels at certain widths on the chassis without them sliding up and down the axles. So as you can see, that gives me a lot more sort of room for stance in the wheels out, having them sticking out a bit more or sticking a bit more further under the archways of the car. It's a lot more freedom with them, with using these axles. As you can see, this is sort of what I'm going with there. Just wanted to sort of stance it slightly more with the wheels. A bit more wider wheel track on them. Just gently mark where I need to cut it with a Sharpie. And I use literally just a nice sharp scalpel. Roll it over the top of the tubing, and eventually it cuts through. Very nice clean cut as always using this method. Doesn't crush it like a side cutter would do. So for example, I just put these wheels onto this axle. And there you go, there's the axle made up. Just test fitting again. I always like to test for everything I do on these customs, just to see where we're going and if there's any adjustments needed. Change it now before you start committing to anything. So in order to get those axles glued into the tube, I'm just going to be using one of my files again. Just be filing a little notch into the brass tubing. Okay, I can just about see the dent that I've made with the tube. Just use the tip of my scalpel here and just clean out the area. There it is. Good clean hole there where we can start placing some glue into it and then threading the axles into it. Yep, perfect. You can see the axle slides between the hole there. Means when we place glue into there, it'll collect it and it'll glue that axle directly in there. There we go, just pop some super glue into those holes. They're nice and snug. So I'll be doing the Jim Silver method of doing some silver Sharpie. Doing some details on the chassis with this. I quite like using the Sharpies for this method. It's a very quick and clean sort of way of doing it. Just pick out all the little details on this chassis piece here. The body will also just be picking out some extra details on here with the front and rear of it. I'm going to be painting the grills in with silver paint. This I'll be using a brush for it, using some Revell silver. I really like the grille on this. It's got sort of quite a old school sort of steampunky look to it, I think. Just really cool looking. This is one of Hot Wheels fantasy castings. I actually really like some of them. This is one of my favourites. Just painting the interior as well in the silver paint. I'll just be using some Tamiya metallic grey just to paint in the tanks on the rear of this as well. Just gives some different sort of hues and whatnot on this. Pick out some extra details. And also, I'm just going to be painting the footwell, as you can see. Where the driver sits there, you can see the interior piece on the chassis. I'll just be painting this in the metallic grey as well. So when you place that on, you don't get to see the base there, you just see the paint. Just sort of blends it in a bit better. Just be picking out some extra details on the engine. Just here using some Tamiya metallic blue. Just painting in the turbo sort of cowlings on them on there. Some little extra details on the interior as well, just some buttons and things. Another Sharpie, using the gold one this time, just picking out a few details on here with the pipes. Just going to be painting the seats as well. I used a matte tank grey for this from Revell. And also just painting in the seat belts as well. This just using a Revell red, using a fine brush to paint those on, and some little extra details on the engine. I was painting a little, I don't know what the heck they are, to be honest, just looks like pipes or something. Now I'll also be using this liquid chrome pen from Molotow. This I will be going over the grills that I initially painted with the silver paint, and now with the chrome. The silver paint means I get a good coverage on areas where I cannot reach with the thick chrome pen. And the chrome pen over the top just sort of really brightens everything up and gives it a lot more realism. I did this on the front and rear grills. I'll also just be using some Tamiya clear red just for the tail lights. This is painted directly on top of the chrome pen once that had dried. Now finally, I'll just be going over all the details with this Citadel Nuln oil. It's essentially just a dark wash. I love using this stuff, it really ties your customs together with some of the detailings. So I go over the entire interior in this, really ties everything in. Gives it a very sort of realistic look to it. Chassis gets hit with it as well. And the grille also, and on the tail of the car as well. As you can see, I also went over the headlights with some white paint. I think this gives a nice effect for headlights using white sometimes. You can see that Nuln oil really finds the details on it. Just gently going around all the edges and just trying to find the crevices for it to sit into. I went and clear coated the body on this. I used it straight out of a rattle can. It's just a polyurethane clear coat from Rust-Oleum. I did 2 coats of it over the body. There you go, you can see the details I did on that interior after the Nuln oil had dried. I also just painted the real wheel wells on it in black because you can slightly see those through the back of the car. And there's our chassis. That had a matte coat from a clear matte coat over it from a spray can. There's our wheels. I also Nuln oiled those as well. Really ties it into the build. They were far too shiny and chrome to begin with, so the Nuln oil really tones it down. Just what I was after for this build. And there's me 5mm self-tapping screws that I like to use for this. These just screw directly into the post that I drilled out initially. There's no need for tapping. So, before I reveal it, let's go and take a look at what we started with. So here's a great looking car to begin with. Not the greatest of paint jobs they've done on it. I'm never too keen on the black paint jobs anyway. I feel it sort of hides a lot of the details. But what was there in the casting looked really good. So here's what we ended up with. This is my interpretation on Hot Wheels Night Shifter. It's how I envision it. Sort of a futuristic kind of muscle car. Probably running on some sort of futuristic fuel or something like that. Lord knows. It's got a massive engine in there with those tanks on the back as well. Let's just take a closer look at him. As you can see, he rolls really nicely on those wheels with the axles. There we go. It's a lovely good clear coat on that again. I really like this red. It's one of my favourite colours that I have. There's that chassis. I did go over it with some Tamiya weathering silver powder before I clear coated it, just to give it a bit more detail. As you can see, the little sort of vents on the side there, I hit those with a bit of Nuln oil on the body. And there's that rear tail sort of grille thing as well. There's that front one. Really happy with how that come out using the chrome pen with the Nuln oil. Yeah, just overall really pleased with this one. It's one of my favourite customs I've done so far. Just love doing the details on the interiors and things for things like this. It's definitely what I'm after. Just take some pictures of him under a different lighting condition. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the build, guys. Let me know down in the comments what you thought of it. And also, if you liked it, give it a thumbs up. Also, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to my channel. Always pumping out videos every couple of weeks when possible. Always trying to push my skills with every custom I do. I don't try and sort of sit in a groove and just keep doing the same thing. I always try and do something different. So we've gone to see our goddess, Super Pochaka, and see what she's got for us next time. Oh, what's that? Nice. Let's take a closer look at this one. It's a Hot Wheels Nissan Skyline. Very cool. Definitely got some ideas with this one. I think I'm going to be going with a Sideways King 75 cal Sonic Skyline custom with this one. So do keep an eye out on that one. So thanks a lot, guys. Thank you for watching. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.